WarHammer 40k timeline in 20 minutes from Arbiter Ian. Let us go.
Hi gang. So during lockdown, my games club started a sci-fi and fantasy book club. And one of the books we read was Xenos by Dan Abnett, often cited as being one of the best introductions to the 40k universe. After completing it, my friend Mira, who had never read any 40k before, asked this.
Question. What's the name for the universe of Warhammer?
Cue a lengthy discussion about how the world of 40k is, well, our world.
Oh,
just
sorry.
really, really far in the future. I said that I'd write a short summary of the background for her, and when that went exactly as well as you might expect, we joked that I should start a YouTube channel and turn it into a video.
Oh, I was reading that. Damn it.
Pink light. So here we are, a brief-ish summary of how 40k got to be 40k. If you're relatively new to the 40k background and all this is seeming a bit of a jumble, hopefully this will be useful. I'm recording in 2021 and we're currently at the start of the 3rd millennium CE. This is the dating system we use throughout, the one we're used to. I also want people, before we start, to bear in mind the scale of what we're talking about. Most sci-fi franchises are set a few hundred years into the future. Warhammer 40,000 is called that because that's when it's set, almost 40,000 years in the future. And that's a deliberate choice. It means they could come out with something really diverse and different. So we're in the 3rd millennium, M3. From the perspective of 40k, this is the Age of Terror, which is their word for Earth. From now until around M15, humanity spreads out from Earth, slowly at first using conventional sublight spacecraft and generation ships. Progress is slow,
so they do talk
and the
about
new
it.
colonies have to survive as independent units, isolated from the mother world.
You guys said that there isn't much information about like the early aspects of 40k, right? At least I'm pretty sure you did. Hold on. Let's just get a. How's it only M3? I thought a millennium was 1,000 years, so wouldn't it be 40 millennia? Am I stupid? If it's 40,000 years afterwards? The general idea is that humanity advanced and expanded across the stars. So I guess it's basically just like a logic. Oh, he's talking about now?
To 10 generations of travel. Mars is the first planet to be terraformed to sustain life, and then others follow.
And then this
I'm going to
becomes the
reiterate that the next
planet.
big change comes in M15, 12,000 years in our future. That's 5 times as far in the future as ancient Rome is in our
I'm
past.
still just waking up.
In 40k, practically nothing from the Age of Terror survives. It's fair to assume that everything we'd recognise, cultures, nations, political systems, are all ancient history by this point. Between M15 and M18, humanity moves into the Age of Technology. But from the point of 40k, it's often known as the Dark Age of Technology because so few records survive. In this time, a few of the central concepts of the 40k universe are discovered. The first discovery is the warp. The warp in 40k is a parallel dimension roughly mapped onto our own. But instead of physical matter, the warp is composed of emotional energy. This energy comes from the mind of every sentient creature in the universe, each of which is like a tiny candle flame in the warp. These seas of emotional energy don't conform to the laws of physics, and so the warp can be a dangerous place to be. Looking upon it will send people mad, and exposure to it will twist and mutate physical forms. In addition, things live in the warp, beings composed of emotional energy that would try and devour any traveller and are constantly trying to break into real space.
That's stunning art.
The warp is where a lot of the horror element of 40k comes from. However, there are stable currents through the warp, and since time and space don't mean the same thing there, a ship wrapped in a protective bubble of real space.
Wait, so this is a map of the warp, right? How much of this is constantly changing and like can actually be navigated if you had this map alone, theoretically? All of it? Is there, I assume because time is near non-existent there, things are constantly shifting, and like for example this area may not shift at the same speed as maybe this area, right? I'm not sure if there's like a general like, hey, this area tends to be a little more a little slower to move around. That's how we get warp routes and channels and such. When something happens in real space, it always happened in the warp. If there was a really big space battle, right? Like a ship battle in space, in like the regular plane, would there be a direct impact in the warp, for example? Because obviously that would be a very high tension environment, right? Where there's a lot of conflict, there's a lot of distress, a lot of emotions. How would that typically manifest? We have no idea. Have they ever tried to do tests where they send someone into the warp in like a relative location to see like how it would play out live? Oh, really? Interesting. They actually did tests. Whenever you have small impact, you really need to do tremendous amounts of death for a battle to cause a shift in the warp. I imagine so, because it took so much in order for Slaanesh to exist. They tried, the results are never reliable. Has there been any information that they've actually been able to take away from it that's concrete, or no? We're 3 minutes in, and so it begins, chat.
Time and space don't mean the same thing there. A ship wrapped in a protective bubble of real space called a Geller field K comes from. However, there are stable currents through the warp, and since time and space don't mean the same thing there, a ship wrapped in a protective bubble of real space called a Geller field could ride those currents and achieve faster than light travel.
Choir?
At first, only short jumps were possible, skimming the surface of the warp. But the humans of the Age of Technology eventually developed Navigators, a controlled mutation resulting in a human bloodlines with a third warp eye that can perceive the rolling currents of the warp and chart a course through them. With Navigators, humanity can spread across the galaxy and become wildly diverse and divergent. Trade routes are established, space nations and star empires exist. Humans encounter trade, humanity can spread across the galaxy and become wildly diverse and divergent. Trade routes are established, space nations and star empires exist. Humans encounter alien races for the first time, and the first...
For Navigators, typically, what do they do, like, outside of the warp? Because I realized that we actually didn't really talk about it much. Like, we talked about what Navigators do while in the warp, but it's not like you're constantly going through the warp, right? I personally like to think of the warp as a distorted mirror of real space. When nothing happens in reality, nothing happens in the warp, aka it needs us. That's a good way of looking at it, I think. There's a Navigator and Rogue Traitor. Navigators can leave their ship, but it depends on the laws of the particular house. I thought that they were like locked in to their chair, because they're like, what is it, abhumans or adhumans? Basically, the more turbulent and high emotion and the real world in a specific spot, the more the warp blends into reality and the more the warp phenomena manifests in our world. Within the warp, we don't really have much of a one-to-one explanation of the action in real world to affect the warp, but some heinous acts have been known to make powerful demons, for example. Oh, interesting. So it's kind of like a, I don't know why I didn't really think of it like this before, but it's kind of like a fusion in that moment, rather than like thinking of it like separate and then like a portal. It's more like overlap. I know people have said overlap like multiple times, but I'm talking about specifically during these moments. No, I swear I heard this before, but maybe it was something else. Maybe I'm misremembering. Mostly Navigators see an armored bunker in the ship. They're too valuable to risk. What? Dude, what is... I don't understand what's with my PC.
Alien wars are fought. Aliens in 40k, called Xenos, are always worryingly, horribly other. Humanity's technology is seemingly capable of anything. One big development is the STC, the Standard Template Construct. An STC is a machine or a program or a small factory, it's unclear, that can manufacture a single device out of whatever local materials are to hand. STC systems are sent out as planets are colonized, making sure that the new planet can make vehicles or life support or weapons out of whatever resources happen to be around. They are the sum total of human technical knowledge in a form that allows any lay person to benefit from it without needing to understand it. That's foreshadowing. The other development in this age is that of true artificial intelligence. Eventually, this leads to a great universe-wide war as the artificial intelligences inevitably revolt, known to legend as the war between the Men of Stone and the Men of Iron. The Men of Iron, the robots, were defeated, and from then on, thinking machines were outlawed. Any thinking must have a human mind at its core. This means that the robot servants that other sci-fi franchises have are replaced in 40k by servitors. Humans, usually clones or criminals, whose minds have been wiped and replaced by simple programming. Computers have vat-grown biological tissue at their core and sometimes rudimentary personalities because of it. With the Dark Age of technology at its height, by the end of the 22nd millennium, humanity starts to suffer a great collapse as the warp becomes turbulent. Great warp storms reroute or shut off stable currents, and slowly interstellar travel becomes impossible. Empires and galactic communities become slowly isolated from each other, many unable to get the resources they need. At the same time, instances of psychic power in humans start to increase. In 40k, a psyker is a sentient being whose presence in the warp is not a candle but a great bright flame. They are...
One thing that I kind of, I guess, struggle to, I suppose, understand would be, I know someone is gonna say scale. It just is. Whatever, right? But this is like something I'm thinking about. And I just wonder, I'm like, I'm not too well versed in the Eldar, right? And their values and stuff. And they had like a disgustingly high population before, right? Or like they were pretty big, but then a lot of them got nuked by Slanesh, right? I just find it a little difficult to believe that, like, you would, I guess that they would have been super, super, super far, right? But I'm just like, dang, I'm surprised that they let humanity expand to this extent, right? How much do we know of the early aspects of some of these species? Like, I imagine there isn't like a ton of information on the early Eldar, right? They were busy. I think by the time humanity came around, they didn't really care. I imagine that they probably saw us the same way we saw the Tau. Oh, they were fighting Necrons. Okay, so they actually were busy. Because they were made by the old ones, question mark? Sorry, I know we're like 4 videos in, but I'm still gonna be double checking this stuff. There's so much stuff. So much information. Yes, they were. No, they were not. Classic Chad. Humans were to push over the golden age of technology for humans are very strong. Okay, so when he was talking earlier about what's considered the dark age retroactively, right? Was that considered the golden age for humanity at the time? I assume so, but it's considered the dark age now because we've lost a lot of that information. War in Heaven was 65 million years ago. Oh, that was the first one, right? With the Catan. They were so advanced, they just saw us like sea primates. Sea monkeys are cute though. I'm surprised that we weren't just taken as slaves and pets. I use AI and all technology we use now is based on that period of time. Okay. So it's a matter of perspective, whether or not it's the Dark Age or the Golden Age. Okay. It's considered the Dark Age of technology because the Adeptus Mechanicus consider all innovation technology to be heresy. Oh, so it's their narrative. Okay.
They are a conduit for the warp, able to use the power of the warp to achieve things that look like magic in real space. Psykers have always been a part of humanity, and in 40k that's where we get our myths of magic and shaman and witches from. But psykers can be dangerous. Letting the warp into real space through your mind runs the risk of letting one of the things that live there in too. And without great strength of mind, a psyker possessed by a warp entity...
I'm sorry, this image is so funny because it looks so whimsical. Like, so whimsical for no reason.
He could damn an entire world to mutation and corruption as they become a gateway to those that inhabit the warp. Possession, damnation. You'll notice a lot of religious language starts to creep in here. In 40k, there aren't really actual gods, but there are certainly things so powerful and alien that they might as well be. We said that the warp was formed of emotion, and those emotions flow together. As the number of sentient beings in the galaxy explodes, the greatest of those emotions, fear, anger, deceit, desire, become so huge and concentrated in the warp that they start to possess a great intelligence and compete with one another to influence the real world. These chaos powers are often called gods, but they're more like great, unknowable Lovecraftian entities. Still, dedicating acts to them in...
I think I might have asked this before, but Slaanesh wasn't added like retroactively to lore, right? Slaanesh was there from the beginning of like when the Warhammer 40k universe was created. Okay.
Real space can draw their attention and grant great power, so worship becomes the word used. The entities that serve them can be summoned and possess people, so demon ends up being the term used. Great strength of mind can repel them, so faith ends up being the term used. There aren't gods like we would understand them, but because of the warp, religion and worship are real and powerful things in the setting. As the warp storms grow and humanity falls into isolated pockets, whole worlds are consumed by the actions of rogue psychers, or cults worshipping the chaos powers, or simply starve for want of resources or are picked off by aliens. By the 25th millennium, humanity starve for want of resources or are picked...
Oh, is that are these Sisters of Silence? What is going on here? I don't think I've seen ships like this before. Oh wait, no, these are Eldar, right? Are they? I can't tell. I'm like, yeah, these look more like Eldar. It's so spiky. It's probably Eldar, right? Oh, it is? Okay. Oh, and they're fighting Ultramarines? Question mark? It looks blue. Da 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 da. These ones are the worst ones, right? Worse, quote unquote, Eldar. Banshees? Toko. I see. I think this is Ultramarine, and then this one is what? A walker? Like the watcher thingy?
Off by aliens. By the 25th millennium, humanity descends into 5,000 years of stagnation and decline known as the Age of Strife. Ancient Earth, by this point known as Terra, has long used up its resources and descends into warring nation-states, facing hordes of techno-barbarian warriors using the remnants of past technologies. Every tool in mankind's millennia-long arsenal is used in conflicts from atomics to genetic engineering to psychic powers. Some organized states hold out, but for most of the period, Terra's permanently in a state of war over minute natural resources. It's into this world, around the 30th millennium, that the Emperor emerges. Nobody knows where he came from, but he's a psyker of staggering power and a scientist of unparalleled genius. An immortal...
It's kind of crazy because the Emperor is so prominent in the narrative of the 40k universe that you kind of forget how new he is, actually, relative to everything. Because it's like, it's 40k, right? It's only 10,000 years before 40k.
Who claims to have been with humanity since the start of civilization, guiding us in the background. That's the official line. There are other theories, especially amongst contemporary characters in the novels. From this point, we get into stuff that's known, though restricted, history in the 40k world, so we start to get a lot more detail. Also, background and novels are still being written that expand on this stuff, so it could change. I'll put this asterisk on screen whenever things get particularly contentious. As humanity on Terra starts to consume itself, the Emperor begins a slow conquest of the planet at the head of armies of genetically engineered warriors. Genetic engineering's kind of the Emperor's hobby. First of these are the Legio Custodes, his bodyguards, each taken as a toddler and genetically rewritten into a loyal, thoughtful, immortal philosopher soldier in a long and costly
I thought they were custodies. Is this one of those instances where no one can agree how to pronounce things? I thought it was spelled Custodes. Am I mistaken?
Process. But there aren't initially enough of them to conquer a planet, so alongside the regular human armies at his disposal march 20 legions of Thunder Warriors, adult soldiers genetically engineered to be incredibly large, tough, and aggressive. With the Thunder Legions, the Emperor sweeps across Earth and either defeats the various warring factions or brings them into his Imperium under threat of destruction. Yeah, it's called an Imperium, not an empire. Don't know why. As a psyker of staggering power, the Emperor knows why the warp has grown so stormy over the last few millennia. An alien race, the Empire, it's called an Imperium, not an empire.
Oh, okay.
As a psyker of staggering power, the Emperor knows why the warp has grown so stormy over the last few millennia. An alien race, the Eldar, were at the very height of their power during humanity's expansion. So technologically advanced that their lives were spent in indulgence and leisure. However, the Eldar race are extremely psychic, and as their society grew more and more decadent, the emotional energy that was building up in the warp was slowly coalescing into a new chaos power. When that power woke up, the warp storms would be cleared, and the Emperor wanted to be ready for that. As the conquest of Earth reaches its height, the Emperor starts work on the next stage of his plan.
What the? What am I looking at?
Humanity was that was building up a kick, and as their society grew more and more decadent, the emotional energy that was building up in the warp was slowly coalescing into a new chaos power. When that power woke up, the warp storms would be cleared, and the Emperor wanted to be ready for that. As the conquest of Earth reaches its height, the Emperor...
Interesting. I thought that there would be more shifting. With all the oceans and seas gone? Rad wastes. Oh. So is this just like, is all the water like radioactive now, or is it just gone? Like desert. Oh, but this is defined as a desert. Desert wastes. Gone? Gone or highly radioactive. I assume from infighting and probably like...
starts work on the next stage of his plan.
I imagine it's a lot of bombing.
Humanity was scattered across the galaxy, under threat from Xenos predators and ever more vulnerable to the warp as it slowly evolved into a psychic species. The Emperor had conquered Earth, but the Thunder Warriors were too unstable and erratic to conquer an entire galaxy. He needed autonomous, reliable armies that he could send out to all corners of the galaxy to unite humanity. He stole a measure of power from the warp, and used it to create 20 Primarchs, giant superhuman generals. And from their genetic structure, he created another army of genetically engineered super soldiers, the Legiones Astartes, or Space Marines. Though individually less powerful than a Custodes or a Thunder Warrior, the process by which they were made, by implanting gene seed into adolescent boys, and the stabilization offered by their Primarch's genetic structure, allowed each Legion of Astartes to be practically self-sufficient. They could continue to replenish their numbers as they went. So that's the plan, and as the infant Primarchs grow in their capsules in the Vaults of Terror, and as the first Astartes were being tested from their genetic material, the powers of chaos managed to breach the Emperor's laboratory, and from their genetic Primarchs grow in their capsules in the Vaults of Terror, and as...
Oh, these are all the... Oh, I see the Ultramarine logo here. What is this? Ultramarine? I know Ultramarine. And then, is this Iron Fists? What is this one? What are these ones? There are so many.
As the first Astartes were being tested from their genetic material, the powers of chaos managed to breach the Emperor's laboratory and scatter the 20 Primarchs across the galaxy. This was late in the process, so there was still enough genetic material around to create the 20 Legion.
Interesting. Okay, let me see. Thousand Sons. Hey, that's me. Thousand Sons. Emperor's Children. I feel like I haven't really heard about this one. Dark Angels.
Though the lack of nearby Primarchs meant that various genetic issues arose within the legions. When the fourth Chaos Power, Slaanesh, was finally born at the start of the 31st millennium.
So this is when it's treated by humanity in our timeline when Slaanesh was born, the 31st millennium. But Slaanesh's creation started to begin, quote unquote, because no time in the warp, around the 23rd millennium.
With a psychic shriek that almost destroyed the Eldar species, the warp storms were blown away and the Emperor launched his Great Crusade at the head of innumerable regular armies and 20 legions of Astartes. The crusade had a few main aims: to unite the disparate surviving strands of humanity, by force if necessary, to kill all Xenos found so that humanity has no competition, to impose the Imperial truth, a secular denial of all religion. The idea is to deny chaos, a source of human worship, and to regulate, capture, and train any human psychers. But at this point, there's already a spanner in the works. Arguably, the plan had been for the Primarchs and the Legions to lead this crusade, while the Emperor worked on another big project, breaking into the Webway. The Webway is a subspace network of transit tunnels in between
And this was the big project he wanted to do that he hid from Horus, and then Horus found out about it, and he thought that the Emperor was trying to fuck him over, and he crashed out and led the Horus heresy.
Real space and the warp, built by an ancient alien race. If humanity could use the webway, then it wouldn't have to rely on the warp for interstellar travel. And if this, the regulation of psychers, and the denial of worship could all happen...
Well, I know he hid it from everyone, and the theory is that he hid it from everyone because if they weren't aware of it, then if they weren't aware of chaos, then they couldn't think of chaos and thus be tempted by chaos, but it ended up backfiring because they thought that he was just trying to fuck him over. Horus is misled by the chaos gods that Horus thought he was trying to be God. Horus thought that the Emperor was trying to be God? Horus is more angry because the Emperor hid the existence of chaos from him. Wasn't it too, he was sending him on like a super dangerous expedition to I think to take over like a planet or something, and that knowledge would have very much assisted him in doing so. So it was making it more, from Horus's perspective, him not having that knowledge and him, the Emperor, having hidden that knowledge made it a lot more dangerous for him.
Quickly, while the Chaos powers were still reeling from the birth of Slaanesh, then Chaos could warp for interstellar travel. If humanity could use the webway, then it wouldn't have to rely on the warp for interstellar travel. And if this, the regulation of psychers, and the denial of worship could all happen quickly while the Chaos powers were still reeling from the birth of Slaanesh, then Chaos would be denied a power source in humanity, and humanity would be safe from it. However, the loss of the Primarchs would warp for interstellar travel. And if this, the regulation of psychers, and the denial of worship could all happen quickly while the Chaos powers were still reeling from the birth of Slaanesh, then Chaos would be denied.
So basically he wanted to time getting all his ducks in a row at like this specific point because it would be the, I guess, the least damaging.
A power source in humanity, and humanity would be safe from it. However, the loss of the Primarchs screwed all that up. The Emperor had to lead the Great Crusade himself. So the Great Crusade sets
because all the Primarchs were scattered
out from Terror after 5,000 years of isolation and stagnation. The first planet encountered is Mars, ruled by the Mechanicum, a culture that revere technology as holy knowledge. The tech priests concentrate on rediscovering great secrets from humanity's past, like the STC systems, without truly understanding them.
Okay, dumb question. This was probably touched on before, but like I said, wealth of information to absorb and understand. How come they're only just getting to Mars? Like, I thought that this already had like humans on it. Like, I thought that they would have already had more regular contact with Mars. Like, I know that they haven't made the treaty between Mars and them yet, but why didn't they? It's been a long time, and Mars is pretty close by, relative to everything else at least. Warp storms? Oh, because of Slaanesh. Okay. Terra collapsed to the point where it couldn't really communicate well. Oh, I didn't know it was that bad. Okay, that makes sense. Oh wait, sorry. So during the past, they haven't had contact with Mars for what, like the past 10 millennia? Would it be about that amount of time? Because millennia 23 was when Slaanesh was starting to be birthed, and there were a lot of warp storms, and then millennia 31 was when Slaanesh was birthed. You said 5k years. So, okay. So they were still traversing somewhat during that time, but at a certain point it got too dangerous. Okay.
Like the STC systems, without truly understanding them. In fact, innovation is considered an affront to their god, the Omnissiah. Thankfully, an awful lot of tech priests think that the Emperor is the incarnation of the Omnissiah, so the Imperial truth is conveniently waived for Mars, and the Mechanicum ally with the Imperium. The expeditionary fleets discover various lost...
I wonder if the Admechs, if they saw the Emperor as he is now, on the throne, right? Because he's basically like a shell of himself, right? And he's hooked up to a lot of supplementary technology. Do you think that would reinforce the belief that he is the Omnissiah? Because he looks closer to them now than before. I mean, I'm just saying, right? Because I'm like, I feel like they would think he's extra holy. Do you mean modern or 30 millennia AdMac? Modern. Mars once sent envoys to Terra way back before the Emperor conquered the planet to see what happened to their closest neighbor. They saw the techno barbarians running rampant around the planet and said, fuck that. That's funny. Yeah, because I'm like, I feel like he would be closer to their standard of beauty. Can you imagine a really cute conversation between tech priests where they're just like, hey, I see you got some new augments. You're looking mighty cool there, dude. That's a really cool little gear you got there.
Pockets of humanity over the course of 100 years of crusading. Some are advanced societies who have weathered the age of strife with their technological secrets intact, but most have devolved into primitive societies. Some resist compliance or have fallen to the worship of chaos or have been enslaved or mutated, and these are all destroyed by the legions. Slowly, as the Great Crusade expands, all the original 20 Primarchs are found, scattered on various human planets.
That's Horus. This is this Angor? Which one's Angor? This one's the salamander one, right? Or no, that's a different one, I think. The salamander one, is he just like pure charcoal? So I remember all the salamanders look charcoal, right? Ren one's Magnus. Oh, he's the dumbass that called the Emperor. This guy looks angrier. Maybe he's Angor. Dorn is the with the big eagle on his back. Dorn. Magnus. Gold armor with white white hair. Is this one? This one?
And they are given command of their legions. Eventually, with the Primarchs rediscovered and the Great Crusade nearing completion, the Emperor raises one of the Primarchs, Horus of the 16th Legion, to War Master. Horus is to lead the conclusion of the Crusade, while the Emperor returns to Terra to work on the Webway project. But by this point, things have got a bit desperate. The Primarchs are all great leaders, but they're not really the perfect Imperial generals the Emperor was aiming for. They've all been raised in different human cultures with very different ideas of how to fight a war, very different.
Are these actually showing named Primarchs here? This is the Space Wolves one, right?
Different human cultures with very different ideas of how to fight a war, very different ideas of what the Imperium should be, and very different ideas about
this is a salamander one. The goat.
The Emperor. Some see him as a great leader.
This is the Ultramarine one, right? This is the original one, right? Because there is the original, and then I think there was Robot Girly Man. Oh, this is Robot Girly Man? Okay.
Others as a tyrant, others as a god. Many see him as a father figure and feel abandoned when he places Horus in charge and disappears off to spend the rest of the crusade in a laboratory. Many of them worry what their place will be when the crusade is over. After all, when the Thunder Warriors stopped being useful, the Emperor just straight up killed them. And since they've obviously been stolen away by chaos at some point, the Emperor, never the most human and caring of beings, is quite closed about revealing his full plans to them. Games Workshop's also quite closed about revealing its full plans. I'm piecing this together from a lot of different books. Eventually, using some of these feelings...
This is Horus after he turned chaos. Sorry, I have to see all the images so I can start making the association. Because I do not have the association. I keep getting them mixed up.
Things of betrayal, Chaos manages to turn Horus and half the Primarchs against...
Who is this? I don't think we've seen a design like this before. This is sick. It's purple. Was this someone for Fulgrim? Was this Emperor's Children? Emperor's Children's purple, right?
The Emperor, and a galactic civil war rages between the 9 Loyalist legions and the 9 Traitor legions. 2 Primarchs disappear mysteriously during the Crusade. This war is called the Horus Heresy, and there's a 50-book novel series about it.
Those are the ones that are
in
disappeared for
short,
plot reasons,
the
right?
Emperor spends most of it in his lab trying to finish
Or I
the
guess meta
Webway
reasons.
project. A few Primarchs die. Horus lays siege to the Imperial palace on Terra before the Emperor emerges and kills him, but
So lost in the Walmart. They're hiding in between the clothing racks, guys. Please understand. I think Lion was the first Primarch to be created since he was a Primarch of the First Legion. Oh, but he's not the favorite. Lion was the original Ultramarine one? Or... Dude, I'm sorry. I get so confused with this one because I've heard a lot about this. Original Ultramarine Primarch. Oh, so it is Robot Girly Man, and then afterwards Lion took over. Okay. Lion Ultramarine? Am I mistaken? The Dark Angel? Dude, I get so confused. I really need like a clarification video for the Space Marines. I was very mistaken. Space Marine chapter chart. Ah! Oh, Jesus Christ! There's so many! Is there nothing easier than this? Dude, they're so small I can't even see. That's what she said. Okay.
Is mortally wounded in return. The Emperor, catatonic, is placed on the life support device known as the Golden Throne, and the traitor legions retreat to the Eye of Terror, a massive area of the galaxy where the warp and real space cross over.
Try Legion chart. Legion chart. WarHammer. There you go. Okay, let's start from the left, actually. We have Dark Angels, Lionel Johnson. This is the one Stim likes. Emperor's Children, Fulgrim, and he becomes the Naga-ass looking bitch, I assume because of Slanesh. Iron Warriors, Perturbo. This is the one you guys... Was this the one you guys said was not useful? Or was that Fulgrim ended up not being very useful? That is a lot of factions, yes. White Scars is the Tagatai, and he's the one with the ponytail. Space Wolves, these are the Nordic ones. Imperial Fists, that's Dorn. Okay, this helps a lot. I will try and absorb this. Conrad Kurz. Oh, for Night Lords. Blood Angel, Sanguinius. Iron Hands, Ferris. World Eaters, Angron. This is the dude that can only feel angry, otherwise he feels immense pain, right? Peter Turbo was the MVP there. I love the stupid names for everybody. Ultramarines, the Goat. Death Guard, Mortarion. Legion size 95,000. Oh, interesting. Oh, so they're... Oh, Ultramarines are... the biggest? Really? Thousand Suns, Magnus, Prospero. Was that homeworld actually prosperous? Prosperous? Legion, Sons of Horus, Etonia, World Bearers. Oh, Word Bearers. Sorry, I thought this was a type of Word Bearers. Lorgar. There was something about Lorgar we learned the other day. Salamander, Vulcan. This is the Goat. Raven Guard, Corvus Corax. This is the one you guys always make fun of. Alpha Legion, Alfarius, Omega. That's the one I'm gonna make fun of. Alfarius Omegon. That's good. I am Alfarius. Your cringe is what you are. Ultramarines is the biggest legion with the most victories in battle, the most successful chapters, and the most worlds under its command. The favorite child of the WarHammer franchise.
In the 10 millennia after the Horus Heresy, the Imperium kind of devolves. It's placed on the life support device known as the Golden Throne, and the traitor legions retreat to the Eye of Terror, a massive area of the galaxy where the warp and real space cross over. In the 10 millennia after the Horus Heresy, the Imperium kind of devolves. In the 10 era, a massive area of the galaxy where the...
I'm sorry, Amaya. Do you find something amusing about twin brothers, one being Alpha and the other being Omega, and them having a bunch of sons together? I would never. But perhaps we should pursue some mpreg. Thoughts? I mean, incest is one of your favorite yaoi genre. Wrong! Incest is one of my favorite genre tropes in general.
Warp and real space crossover. Catatonic is placed on the life support device known as the Golden Throne, and the traitor legions retreat to the Eye of Terror, a massive area.
Oh, this, oh shoot! My lid is out so far. Eye of Terror. This is that big ass, like, perma rift that was made in the warp during, I don't remember what big event. Was it the birth of Slaanesh? I remember it was like some big ass event this was made.
Of the galaxy where the warp and real space cross over. In the 10 millennia after the Horus heresy, the Imperium kind of devolves. It stays together, ruled by a council called the High Lords of Terror and a huge bureaucracy called the Administratum. One by one, the loyalist Primarchs disappear.
This is Jagatai.
Or are killed in battles against aliens.
This is Lemon Russ.
And Maya, to pray.
Russ. Welcome back, Fury. Is it Lehman? Lehman Russ? That sounds like it makes more sense than Lemon. Lehman Russ of the Space Wolves. He looks the same. That's the same picture.
The great Astartes legions are considered way too much of a concentration of power, so they're split up into thousands of autonomous chapters of around 1,000 Marines, spread across the galaxy and tasked with...
Oh, how accurate is this map to today? It looks quite old. Imperial Fists, Iron Knight. Where is Terra? Ultramarine. This is Imperial Fists. Raven Guard. Oh no, it says Crimson Fists. How many different colored fists are there? Terra's left. I'm like, I assume Terra's over here. Old but vaguely correct. Yeah, that checks out. Lehman Russ is also the name of the Imperial main battle tank. That's hella aura. Bottom left. Don't see.
Protecting specific areas or worlds. Because of the gene seed system, each chapter is largely self-sufficient, and because they were created by the Emperor and the Primarchs, they're all...
Officio Assassinorum. That's where the people with blank genes go, often. And then the ad... Is it ad humans? I think they're ad humans, right? Oh, this is the wrong one. I need my googly oogly on set my ad humans. Is it ab? Oh, ab humans. There you go. Grey Knights. These are the super OP Space Marines, but they're still worse than Custodies. Titan Legions. Okay. Adeptus Astartes. These are the Space Marines. Imperial Guard. Planetary Lords. I'm surprised that the Space Marines aren't above here. Like they're here.
Also outside the direct control of the High Lords. After the Emperor is placed on the Golden Throne, a religious movement starts venerating him as a god who has ascended. Resisted at first, this eventually becomes the state...
Oh, this is the one that we were talking about the other day when that dude took the... What is it? I think he found that little world that had a bunch of women really dedicated. That he like converted to his own little like cult and said that, and he had the force field and he was like, I speak for the Emperor. And then eventually those became the Sisters of Battle. Right? After a while. After the leader of the Sisters of Battle was contacted by, I think, what was it? The leader of the Custodies? And he showed her the Golden Throne. Or like he had discussion. No one knows what was talked about. But afterwards, she turned her blade on him. And then he's like, I don't got time for this shit. And then he died.
religion of the Imperium, run by an organization called the Ecclesiarchy.
That's him, right?
And is
The douche.
brutally enforced across the galaxy. Crusades or holy wars, because of differences in scripture, become quite a commonplace thing. As the
See, I
Imperium becomes
remember.
more concerned with heresy and the threat of chaos and xenos, the Imperial Inquisition is formed to hunt out traitors and
I
heretics
like the
within.
Inquisition.
By the 41st millennium, the Imperium is a galaxy-spanning, authoritarian, fascist, religious
Hold on, I'm gonna go back for a second.
crusade.
Okay.
After the Emperor is
M33.
placed on the Golden Throne,
Okay.
a religious movement starts venerating him
Yeah,
as a
praise
god
me
who
more. It
has
helps me
ascended.
remember.
Resisted at
I didn't
first,
realize it was that long ago. Or I guess, I don't know if it feels short or long, but it was M33 that the religious aspect started.
differences in scripture become quite a commonplace thing. As the Imperium becomes more concerned with heresy and the threat of chaos and xenos, the Imperial Inquisition is formed to hunt out traitors and heretics within. By the 41st millennium, the Imperium is a galaxy-spanning, authoritarian, fascist, religious fundamentalist, oppressive state, fighting to stay together against the threats of chaos and various xenos species. It encompasses worlds so remote and backwards that they largely exist as medieval farming communities whose only contact with the Imperium proper is a tithe of soldiers every few decades.
Can you imagine how trippy that is, by the way? To have like little to no technology, but technically be part of an insanely advanced like Imperium, where every once in a while you just get like missives of, hey, you guys do this, or hey, these aliens are coming to your planet. If it can even come in time, because all communication is so slow.
And teeming hive worlds with populations in the billions where everyone's a factory drone. The Imperium has no particular opinion on what form of government or social structure a planet might have, so long as it sticks to Imperial law and delivers its tithe, which means a lot of planets are ruled by autocrats, dictators, or a sort of noble caste. Any knowledge of chaos or the Horus heresy is ruthlessly suppressed, and most people have no idea of anything in history beyond the propaganda they consume. The vast majority of humans never leave their home planet. The Emperor has been a catatonic husk for 10,000 years, but psychers are still hunted down and returned to Terra, where they're sacrificed to fuel the Emperor's golden throne, or to power a giant navigational beacon called the Astronomicon.
I'm thinking. I just think of, if I was the Emperor, how much, not necessarily affection, right? But how much love would I have for my species that I would be able to do this for 10,000 years? Like, do you think that capacity for love and like ambition and drive to keep your species going? But do you think that's part of the reason why people are like saying that Celestine is actually like a demon of the Emperor?
The lucky ones might become astro-telepaths, the only reliable way of communicating between star systems. Harboring psychers, dealing with xenos, or contact with chaos are considered capital crimes, and if a planet is deemed too far gone, then it might suffer the fate of exterminatus, scoured clean of life, just as a precaution.
Oh, big boom
The
button.
colossal, inefficient bureaucracy of the Imperium is intended as a satire. As the famous quote goes, whole sectors of space are lost or abandoned due to rounding errors in administratum tax returns. It's not a fun place to live, and it's against this background that almost all of modern 40k is set. That's the world that Xenos is set in, and the world that the 40k stories have been written in for 30 years now. It's so huge and expansive that many authors have cut out their own little sectors to concentrate on. Abnett's Eisenhorn stories, and the sequels to those, happen in just one subsector of the Imperium. Recently, Games Workshop decided to actually move the plot forward, the first time they've done that since the 80s. The planets holding back the Eye of Terror fall, and a great warp rift spreads across the galaxy, splitting the Imperium and setting loose huge chaos armies. One of the loyalist Primarchs reappears and forces a load of Imperial forces back to the front line, as well as making huge improvements to the Adeptus Astartes. And a great warp, first time they've done that since the 80s. Recently, stories and the sequels to those happen in just one subset. Warp rift. One line as well.
Wait, let me look at Robot Girly Man. I guess one has gold armor, one has blue.
Well as making huge improvements to the Adeptus Astartes. All that is currently unfolding within the game, so I'm not really going to go any further with it in this video. 40k borrows a lot from other sources. The colossal scale outlawing of AI on use of religion as a tool is straight from Dune. The concept of chaos powers is borrowed. That is one of the threads across the galaxy. The planets holding back
Oh,
the
yeah,
Eye of
I
Terror
see. He has the
fall
circle
and plot
thingy.
forward, the first time they've done that since the 80s. The planets holding back the Eye of Terror fall and a great warp rift spreads across the galaxy, splitting the Imperium and setting loose huge chaos armies. One of the loyalist Primarchs
I thought this was Dorn, but I see this. He has this, and Dorn does not have that. Dorn has the eagle, and then Robert Grillyman has the circle hero.
appears and forces a load of Imperial forces back to the front line, as well as making huge improvements to the Adeptus Astartes. All that is currently unfolding within the game, so I'm not really going to go any further with it in this video. 40k borrows a lot from other sources. The
I usually
colossal
go by
scale
color, guys, but it's
outlawing of AI
monochrome.
and use of religion as a tool is straight from Dune. The concept of chaos powers is borrowed from Michael Moorcock, but the way chaos cults in the chaos powers function is more Lovecraft. And the daily over-the-topness and satire is very heavily influenced by 2000 AD and Judge Dredd. The scale, paranoia, and ridiculous inefficiency of the Imperium is also really useful when you're writing this background for a game where any player might want to play any other player. There are tons of reasons why one Imperial faction might fight another Imperial faction. It's almost more common than fighting aliens. Finally, I should say that this is really only the history of humanity within 40k. I mean, they're the main protagonists and cover most of the factions, but similar videos could be made about the history of some of the alien factions. Those are definitely videos for another time. Thanks for watching. If you are new to the 40k background and you found that either useful or really confusing, let me know below. It'd be good to know if these things are actually working. See you next time.
Thank you, Ian.